Hello students, I am RG ma'am is with you to start the next chapter of your class 9, that is all about diversity in living organisms. So we have ended up till next chapter number 3. Okay, that was all about the improvement in food resources. Now we are going to talk about the fourth chapter, that is diversity in living organisms. So students, what is diversity? So let me introduce you to the term diversity. What does the term diversity means? Okay, so this diversity means what? Variety. Okay, so diversity means what, students? Variety. Please remember the term variety over here, because we are going to discuss many things about diversity. Okay, so I am going to take an example over here, students. You go to the market. Okay, if you want to buy a t-shirt, then you go to the market and you see that there are different colors which are available. There are different type of material which are available for a single t-shirt. Okay, so you little bit get confused that you have to buy the cotton t-shirt or a polyester. Okay, or it is made up of another kind of fabric. Okay, so this is how, students, there is the diversity of plants and animals on our planet. Okay, you imagine this thing, that there are about 3 to 50 million living organisms which are existing on our earth planet. Okay, so there are many organisms which are living, even which we are not knowing also. They are also existing on our earth's surface, and researches are even going on those living organisms as well. Okay, so actually we are going to talk about the diversity of living organisms, in which we will take two parts. Firstly, plants, okay, and secondly, animals. Now, do you think so that plants are even diverse on our planet? Yes, students, there are many living species of plants which are present in our environment, but we do not know about it. Okay, so plants are counted in living organisms, and we are going to study the diversity of living organisms, in which we are going to study the plants as well as animals. Now, why there is a need to study the diversity, students? Firstly, the question arises in your mind. So the thing is, actually, we want to know that from which family a particular animal or a plant belongs to. Okay, now I am going to take an example. Like myself. Okay, I am taking example of myself. My name is Roshni Goyal. Okay, so I belong to Goyal family. So I am recognized by my family members. Okay, somebody will say that she is the daughter of Rajendra Kumar Goyal. Okay, then somebody will say she is the daughter of Meena Goyal. Now somebody will say that she is the granddaughter of Vimal Chand Goyal. So this is a hierarchy which is being followed. Okay, I am just taking the name of grandfather, then my father, okay, my mother, and then me. Okay, so this is a hierarchy which has been followed, and I am belonging to that particular family. So similarly, students, the plants and even animals are categorized to which the family they belong. Like we put up partitions over each and everything. As we divide, as you have seen this thing in your lower classes as well, that you are dividing the things according to the habitat in the environment in which they are existing. Like if we take an example of a fish. Okay, fishes live in aquatic environment. Okay, they need water to survive. Without water they will be dead. Okay, but if we talk about lion, if we talk about dog, cow, monkey, they do not need much water to survive. Means they need water to drink only. Okay, they do not need much water to survive because they are terrestrial animals. They can live on land, but fishes cannot live in land, so they live in water. So they are counted as aquatic animals. Okay, so we have put a division between the two types of animals. Similarly, we have put the division between two types of plants as well. Some plants require more amount of water, some plants require less amount of water, and even there are some plants which do not require water for their lifetime as well. Okay, so even though there are animals also, like I take an example of kangaroo rat. Kangaroo rat is an animal which do not require water in its whole life. Okay, so you can consider all these kind of examples, and they are very really interesting to know that from which family they belong, why are they showing these kind of characteristics. Okay, because of the habitat, because of the environment, because of the genetics they are like this. So we are going to discuss about all these things. Okay, this is the first lecture today, students, so it will be not very typical, but when this chapter will move on forward, you will keep on skipping all the things which I have told you. So please do watch these lecture videos in a particular format so that you do not forget each and everything, and we will be going to revise each and every part after the end of the lecture so that we are not going to forget anything. I will tell you some even small tricks also to remember each and everything so that you can remember at the time of examination, because this chapter is very deeper, students, and even if you will move in your class 11, then it will become more deeper to understand. So to remove all these difficulties, RG ma'am is with you. Okay, so do not worry about anything. I will tell you some very small tricks to learn the diversity like a flow chart. Okay, now I am just telling you this thing that we will be going to learn about the plants and animals, and in plants we are going to learn about that how the plants evolved, what were the changes in the genes were seen, how the plants were present at the primitive time. Now in the advanced world, which kind of plants like angiosperms we are seeing, the flowering plants. Okay, when the earth evolved, we can say this thing that the angiosperms were not present at that time, but now we can see angiosperms. Okay, now similarly in the case of animals as well. Okay, we are going to learn that how evolution took place. Different scientists put forward theories. Okay, we take a scientist Carlos Linnaeus. All these were the very important scientists who put their theories and explained that how diversity of the living organisms can be studied in a very simpler way, and I will make you understand each and everything, students. So do not worry and be tuned with me in the next upcoming lectures as well. We will study little part, but we will learn more. Okay, so let's see the contents of today's lecture, students. So first of all, we are going to understand about the diversity and its classification. Okay, so what is diversity and what is its classification? Okay, now nextly we are going to talk about the classification of the organisms. Now actually classification of the organisms is just based upon the type of kingdom they are present. Okay, which type of habitat they have developed, which type of species or genus they belong to. So these are some new terms which I am telling to you, but it will be very familiar in only one lecture today, because in upcoming lectures you are going to learn more from me. Okay, so let's start with the first introductory part, students, in which I am going to make an introduction of only diversity and its classification, that why we need to classify each and everything. Okay, so first we are going to learn about diversity. So since inception on earth, about 4.2 billion changes and diversification account of the evolution. So we can say this thing that the inception of the earth has brought about evolution, and from we can say that 4.2 billion changes can be observed on our single planet. Now next point, according to an estimation, about 5 to 30 million species of living organisms are present on the earth. So I told you this point before also. Around 5 to 30 billion species are present on our earth. Okay, now next point, this is very important. What does a diversity mean, students? Diversity means what? Variety. Okay, now different places on the earth have their own typical kinds of living beings. So different kinds of living beings are seen on the planet. You can see even on in if you categorize animals in different categories, so you can see that some animals look similar. Like if you talk about cat or lion, they look similar. Why? Because of some kind of features that resembles. Okay, so you can categorize all these, like anaconda. If we want to talk about anaconda, if we want to talk about normal snake, then they are categorized in a single category called reptiles. Now why we are categorizing them as reptiles? Okay, why there is a need to classify all these things? So we are going to understand this thing in this particular lecture. Now what does a biodiversity means, students? Biodiversity refers to all diverse plants, animals and microorganisms on the earth. Okay, so all type of microorganisms which are present on the earth, biodiversity refers to it. Okay, which differ from one another in external appearance, size, color, pattern, internal structure, nutrition, behavior and even habitat. Okay, so actually if we talk about diversity, then we only talk about plants and animals. But if we count of biodiversity, then we are going to talk about the microorganisms as well in this particular topic. Now why? Because microorganisms are even the part of our planet, and they are playing a crucial role, they are playing a greater role even in some kind of metabolic activities which are going to happen, like you are going to learn in the class 10 that how food chain occurs. So decomposers are the basic microorganisms which decompose all the organic matter. Okay, they convert all the organic into simpler forms. Okay, so actually all these microorganisms are very important for us even. Okay, now we have learned about bacteria, fungi, all these things in the last lectures as well, so of different chapters. So you have must be familiar with all the terms. Okay, so it will be very very easy to you all to learn each and every thing. Okay, now next point, term biodiversity was coined by Walter G. Rosen in 1986. So you have to remember that Walter G. Rosen in 1986 coined the term biodiversity. Now next point, the warm and humid tropical regions of the earth between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer are rich in diversity of plant and animal life. This is called the region of mega diversity. Okay, so if we count the region from Tropic of Capricorn to Tropic of Cancer, okay, so you must have read the geographical part. So it will be, you can see that if you see the longitudinal part and the latitudinal part, you are going to see the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So the region between the two consists of the biodiversity in a greater amount, and this is known as what? Mega diversity. Okay, now next definition is of taxonomy. Actually this will be a very very familiar word to you in this chapter because it will be used maximum times in the upcoming slides as well. Okay, so taxonomy has come from the Greek word that is taxis, and taxis means what? Arrangement, or nomos means law. Okay, so actually it has come from the two Greek words, student. First is taxis and second one is nomos, and taxis means what? Arrangement, and nomos means what? Law. Okay, now the functional branch of biology dealing with identification, classification and nomenclature of living organisms is called as taxonomy. Actually firstly we have to identify the organism, to which species, genus, kingdom, phylum, class, order it belongs to. Then we classify it. Okay, and after classifying it, we give the nomenclature to a particular organism, maybe it be a plant or an animal. Okay, now Carolus Linnaeus in 1707 to 1778 is known as the father of taxonomy. So actually Carolus Linnaeus, as I told you, he was a great scientist who worked upon the taxonomy part. Okay, he introduced the taxonomy part in the diversity and told about this thing that nomenclature is very very necessary for each and every kind of single organisms as well. Okay, now we say this that typhoid occurs because of the bacteria Salmonella typhi. Now why we are using the word Salmonella typhi here? Because Salmonella, which is counted as genus, and typhi is a species. So we are going to discuss the examples more and more as we move on towards the further upcoming slides. Okay, now we are going to understand about the taxonomic hierarchy, students. What is taxonomic hierarchy? So actually it is just the arrangement of something. Okay, now you can say this thing like that, if you have 7 to 8 boxes of different sizes, then what you will do, you will put at the bottom the large box, then the smaller one, then the smaller one, and the smallest one will be put on the toppest part. Okay, so similarly we just arrange the organisms in a particular way, and this arrangement is known as what? Taxonomy, in which we do the nomenclature of a particular organism. Okay, now it is the framework by which taxonomic groups are arranged in definite order from higher to lower categories. Remember this thing, from higher to lower categories. Okay, now hierarchy is defined as an arrangement of items, objects, names, values, categories. Okay, so actually as I told you this thing, that if we want to arrange something from higher to lower category, then we use the word taxonomy. And what is hierarchy? Actually it is just the arrangement of any kind of things like objects, names, values and even categories in which the items are represented as being above, below or at the same level as one another. So it may be above, it may be below, or they may be same at the one another. So we are going to discuss about the taxonomical hierarchy. So you can see over here, the cone shaped structure tells us about many things. Like if we are arranging any kind of taxonomical name of any organism, then we use firstly the word kingdom. Okay, now what are these? I will make you familiar each and every term. But let us understand firstly, so that in the next slide we will not face any kind of problem. So firstly, we are going to find out the kingdom of that particular species. Then we are going to find out the phylum of that particular species. Then class, order, family, genus, species. And you have to learn it in this order only. Okay, do not disturb the order, please. First is what? Kingdom. Then phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay, phylum is even known as division also. So do not get confused by the two words. Okay, so now you have understood about the taxonomic hierarchy. Now students, the hierarchical order of classifying organisms is. So we are going to see that what is the hierarchical order in which the organisms are being classified. So as I told you, the first part is about kingdom. Okay, we will find out the kingdom of that organism. Then secondly, phylum or division. As I told you, do not get confused by phylum or division name. They are both the same. Okay, now next, class. To which class they belong? Okay, order, then family, then genus, and last one is species. Okay, so you have to learn in this order only. Okay, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay, it is just like a song for you, or so please revise it again and again. So within 2 to 3 minutes you will learn the sequence. Okay, first is kingdom, then phylum, then class, then order, then family, genus, species. And even if you are not getting it, I will tell you a very small trick to learn this thing in the end of this lecture. Okay, so now let us see that what is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, students. So first we are going to talk about the taxon. Okay, what is taxon? Actually we have learned about taxonomy. Okay, so taxon and taxonomy are not too similar but somewhat similar, because this word has come from the taxonomy word only. Okay, so it refers to any rank or category in the hierarchical order of classification, example kingdom or phylum. Okay, so actually if we are talking about only kingdom, or if we are talking about only phylum, okay, the single category or a rank, okay, then we use the word taxon. But if we are talking about the whole class, or we can say the rank, then we are going to see this thing that we use the word taxonomical hierarchy. Are you getting my point, students? If we are going to talk about only genus and species, like I am speaking the name Salmonella typhi, or I am speaking the name Pisum sativum. Okay, Pisum sativum is a generic name which is written for the pea plant. Okay, so Pisum sativum is having the genus Pisum and sativum as a species. So if we are talking about only Pisum, okay, so Pisum will be what? I am taking example over here. This is Pisum and sativum. Okay, I told you about this thing. This is a generic name which is used for the pea plant. Okay, I am writing it over here so that you remember some of the names, because they are important, and sometimes questions are directly asked from the scientific names of any kind of plant or animal. Okay, now you can see your students, Pisum is just what? This genus, and sativum is what? Species. Okay, now if I am only talking about genus, that is Pisum, then I will use the word taxon over here. Okay, if I am going to talk about only sativum, that is species, then I am going to use the word taxon over here. But now if I am using the whole scientific name, okay, so I will tell it like that it will be the name of what? Taxonomical hierarchy, because I am counting more than one rank in this particular name. Okay, now have you understood this thing? Now the highest taxon is kingdom, while the lowest taxon is what? Species. So you can see over here also, the highest one is the kingdom and the lowest one is the species. Okay, now species are basic unit of classification, so obviously they will be the basic unit of classification. Now students, we are going to learn about the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species in a very detailed way through this tabular format, and now you will be understanding that why I am taking these names again and again for the taxonomical hierarchy. Okay, so first one, if we move from the downward portion, okay, so higher class will be of kingdom and lower class will be of species. Okay, so if I move from the downward class, so that is firstly about species. So what is species actually? A group of organisms capable of interbreeding and producing offspring. Okay, so these are the group of organisms which can even interbreed and produce offspring. Okay, now actually I want to take an example over here. Okay, I am just taking the example of two kinds of dogs. Okay, one dog is white in color and one dog is black in color but belongs to the same species. They can interbreed, they can do the sexual intercourse and produce an offspring. Okay, so species are, you can see that they are the group of organisms capable of interbreeding to produce the offspring. Okay, now we are going to talk about genus. What is genus? It is common of closely related species with common ancestry. Okay, so genus is a word which is used for relating that organism to the ancestral organism which were existing on the earth. Okay, now next, family. What is family? A number of genera having several common characters form a family. Okay, so as I told you about this thing, that I live in the Goyal family. So Goyal family has some kind of characteristics, like we all have brown eyes. Okay, we all have curly hairs, we are all short heighted, we are fair in color. Okay, so these are some characteristics which are common in all the organisms of a particular family. Okay, so you can say this thing, that number of genera having several common characters form what? Family. Okay, now we are going to talk about order. What is order? A number of families having common characters are placed in a order. Okay, so some of the members of a particular family are placed in a particular order. Okay, now next is class. What is class? Similar orders are placed together in a class. Okay, now next, phylum, or we can say division. So many classes with some common characters are included in the phylum. Actually these all are included, and the biggest thing that forms is kingdom. Okay, species are included in genus, then genus are included in family, family is included in order, order is included in class, class is included in phylum, and the last one is kingdom. Okay, so we can say this thing, if we talk about kingdom, students, then it is the highest category of taxonomic studies. All animals are included in kingdom Animalia, and all plants are included in kingdom plants, are included in kingdom Plantae. Okay, so if we talk about kingdom, then we use the word Animalia for all the kinds of animals which we are reading, and we use the word Plantae for all the types of plants which we are categorizing in these kind of ranks. Okay, so if you are doing the taxonomical hierarchy of any kind of animal, including like cat, dog, lion, so you will use the kingdom Animalia, and it will be fixed over there. Now if you are doing any taxonomic study on any kind of plant like pea plant, okay, any kind of flower plant, angiosperm, gymnosperm, then you will use the word Plantae over there. So you have to remember this thing, student. This is very, very important. If we talk about kingdom of animals, then we use the word Animalia. And if we talk about the kingdom of plants, students, then we use the word Plantae. Okay, so this is the categorization, and this will be the highest category, or we can say the highest rank in which the categorization of any kind of organism is done. First it will be like this. Okay, first kingdom will be coming, then phylum, then class, then order, then family, then genus, and last one is species. So you will be familiar with each and every organism till the end of this chapter, and even you will be able to write each and every taxonomical hierarchy of any kind of plant of animal which I will give you. Okay, so it will be very, very interesting. Actually, first thing I told you about, that if you are classifying any animal, then you will write the kingdom name as Animalia, and if you are classifying plant, then you will write the kingdom name as Plante. So first job is done for you all. So you are free from any kind of confusion now. Okay. Now next we are going to talk about the identification. Firstly, actually there are some points which we have to keep in mind during study of any kind of organism. First we have to identify the organism to which category it belongs. Okay. Now nextly we will classify it. So if we want to identify it, then how we will do it? So it is defined as determination that a particular organism is similar to some other known individual. Okay. Now I am going to take an example over here. If I am moving in a forest, okay, I see an organism. Now this organism looks similar to somewhat cats. Okay, so I will classify in the category of cat. So it is just the external, or we can say physiological or morphological identification which I have done. Okay, through genes we will come to know from which category it belongs, but this is the first step we have to do, that is the identification. Okay, and it is just similar in the case of plants as well. Okay students, now next is classification. How we can classify any animal? Okay, so classification is the arrangement of organism into sets or groups according to the similarities and dissimilarities present between them. So some similarities are present between the groups and some dissimilarities are even present. So they are classified on this basis. Okay. So if I take the example of xerophytic plants, so there are some xerophytic plants which look somewhat similar, but they are not similar in their each and every function and properties. Okay. Morphologically they may look similar, but they are not totally similar. Okay. Now this diversity gives rise to the need of classification. So diversity needs classification. Actually classification is the second step which is move forward to make the taxonomical hierarchy and to make the study of any kind of organism possible. Okay, so first step is identification, second step is classification. Okay, now significance of classification. We are going to learn about this thing, that why the classification is important. Okay, so it establishes hierarchy of groups of organisms on the basis of their common features. Okay, so actually if I see some kind of common features, like if I take the example of 3 plants in my house. Okay, so they look similar in color, their leaf pattern is same, their venation is same, their water absorbing capacity, transpiration rate is same, they belong to the same genus. So I am going to categorize all these 3 plants in a single rank. Okay, now next, it makes the systematic study very easier. Why? As we open the book, we are going to see the examples of similar kind of plants in a single particular taxonomical hierarchy. Okay, now it is essential to understand the interrelationship amongst different groups of the organisms. Okay, so different groups of the organisms look somewhat similar in some features or characteristics, so we have to put them in a single category. Okay, now it serves as a base for development of other biological sciences as well as different fields of applied biology like public health, environment. Okay, so actually it is just serving as a base for development of other biological sciences. Why? Because as I have found a species, then it will be put in that book. Okay, it will be written as this species has been found. This is the taxonomical hierarchy. Now the another person who is doing the study will come to know about this thing, that this species have been found already and next species I have going to be search. Okay, so this will make it easier for them to do the studies and even researchers. Okay, now system of classification we are going to talk about, that how can we classify any kind of organism. Okay, so what is the system? So we are going to learn about the 3 systems in this particular slide, students. So actually there were some systems which were told in past by some scientists, but they were not totally fulfilling the requirement of classification. So nextly new scientists came, and in advanced worlds the different kind of classification systems are done, through which we come to know about this thing, that the organisms belongs to which category. Okay, so firstly we are going to talk about artificial system. Now what happened in artificial system? Let us read. Biological classification in early times were based upon single habitarily chosen characters suiting the convenience of taxonomists. Actually taxonomists in the past years just fix the goal. Okay, they fix the goal by looking only and only the habitat of a particular organism. If a particular organism is living in the hot temperature or in cold temperature or in aquatic environment or in deserted area, they just put that organism in such a category. But this was wrong. Why? Because we cannot categorize each and every organism on the basis of their habitat. We have to look on their morphology, their physiology, their characteristics, okay, each and every thing. So for an example, on the basis of habitat and ability to fly. Okay, so some organisms have wings but they do not have ability to fly, and some organisms do not have even more developed wings than even they can fly. Okay, so this was all about the artificial system which were proposed in the past time. Okay, now next the natural system arrived. Through natural system, it was based on morphological and anatomical similarities and differences. Now I have two plants in my house. Okay, I am just writing down the similarities and dissimilarities between the two plants. Now what do I come to know about this thing? That they have green leaves. Okay, their venation is same, their leaf size is same, or their leaf size differ from each other. So there will be some dissimilarities and some similarities. So do you think so on the basis of this can we classify the different kind of organisms or plants? No, because on only morphology if we are based, then it is wrong. Okay, some people even look similar. Some people look similar to me as well, because some girls have curly hairs, fair in color. Okay, they have round face. So it does not mean they belong to my family. Okay, they belong to different family. So the classification was wrong according to natural system, because on the basis of morphology and physiology we cannot categorize the organisms. Okay, now next is phylogenetic system. This is nowadays used and it is very very important. Okay, phylogenetic system. Now what happens in phylogenetic system, students? It was based on evolutionary sequence as well as genetic relationship amongst the organism, and this is very important point. Okay, firstly it was based on the genetic relationship, and secondly it was based on the evolutionary sequence. Okay, how did the evolution took place, which kind of plants and organisms newly arised, and they belong to which kind of ancestors even. Whole studies were done according to that. Then the gene, that is DNA part of that organism, was checked. So this is how the categorization was done on the basis of evolution and genetics. So it was counted in phylogenetic system. Now Charles Darwin showed that living organisms evolved from the process of descent with modifications. Actually Charles Darwin at that time was the great scientist, and he told this thing that actually the evolution has taken place and the process of descent with modifications had occurred, and according to modifications what new features have been arrived and what were the primitive ones, we should compare both of the two and then we will do the taxonomical hierarchy. We cannot only just see the organism, or we can depend on the habitat of the organism for its classification. So nowadays even this phylogenetic system of classification is applied, and this is the best method to classify each and every organism present on our planet. Okay students, now we are going to understand about the nomenclature, students. So how the nomenclature of any particular organism is done. As I told you about some scientific names like Magnifera indica, Pisum sativum, Homo sapiens, Hibiscus rosa sinensis. So why I am naming these? Okay, how can I name this? So we are going to understand that why we are putting these names, okay, for any kind of flower. Okay, as I talked about China rose. Okay, China rose is a flower, but the particular scientific name is Hibiscus rosa sinensis. So why we are using this word over here? What is genus, what is species, we are going to talk about in this particular slide, that how the nomenclature of a particular single organism is done. Okay, so it is the system of naming an individual. Okay, so firstly you have to remember this thing. The nomenclature means it is just a system of naming an individual. Now I am going to take an example over here. You took birth in your family. So after your birth, your mother and your parents, means your mother and father, were responsible for naming you. Okay, so it was just a nomenclature which was done for you. Actually the surname of your name was fixed. Only the name has to be changed. Like my name is what? Roshni Goyal. Okay, so this Goyal will be fixed. Okay, this will not change because it has come from my family. But now this name will be changing. Okay, why? Because it will be just according to the family members which has to be put. So nomenclature is done of any individual, and nomenclature is done on the basis of a set of rules stated in the ICN, and this is important. There are the set of rules through which the nomenclature of any organism is done. Okay, so ICN is what, students? Actually, International Code of Nomenclature, and some rules are there, some laws are there through which we have to go through. And the most important nomenclature is all about binomial nomenclature. What is binomial nomenclature? We are going to discuss. So it is a system of naming the organism in such a way that each of their names contain two components. First is genus and second one is species. Actually, in taxonomical hierarchy, students, it will be very difficult for you all to learn the whole hierarchy. Kingdom, division, class, order. Okay, it will be very, very difficult to learn. So, to make this thing easy, the scientists used the binomial nomenclature, in which they used only the genus, okay, as the first word, and the second word will be of species. Okay, remember this thing as I told you about the example of Pisum sativum, students. So, Pisum is what? It is genus. Okay, and if we talk about sativum, so at sativum is what, students? It is species. So we have to use only two words to learn any kind of scientific name of any kind of organism, whether it is a plant or an animal, as I told you, like Magnifera indica, Homo sapiens, okay, Pisum sativum. There are many such examples which we are going to learn in this particular chapter. Okay, now we are going to see the example over here. Scientific name of human is Homo sapiens. Okay, remember this thing. Scientific name of crow is Corvus splendens. Okay, now you can see this first word represent what? Genus, and the second word represent what? Species. Now if we categorize it, then in human and in crow, the Homo and Corvus is what? Genus, and sapien and splendens is what? Species. Okay, so first word is genus and second word is species. Okay, now next, this system was introduced by Carl van Linné in his book Systema Naturae. He is also called as father of taxonomy. Okay, so actually Carlius Linnaeus was a great scientist, and he told about the binomial nomenclature, in which he told this thing that we do not need to study the whole taxonomical hierarchy. We have to learn only two words. First is genus and second one is species. Okay. Now, certain conventions are followed while writing the scientific names. So, what are the conventions and what are the laws or rules we should keep in mind if we are writing any scientific name of the particular plant or animal? So, first is the name of the genus begins with a capital letter. Remember this thing. Never write the name of genus with a small letter. So, if you are writing, for an example, Homo, then you will write it like this. Okay, the first letter will be in capital. Now, the name of the species begins with a small letter. So, if you are writing sapien, then you are going to write the SS in a small letter. Okay. So, this is very, very important to learn, students. Okay, sapien. Now, next, when printed, the scientific name is given in italics. Okay. So, when it goes to printing, it is written in italics. Remember this thing. When written by hand, the genus name and the species name have to be underlined separately. So, if you are writing it by hand, then you have to underline it separately, like Homo is underlined separately and sapien is underlined separately. Okay. Now, you can see here that this is the binomial nomenclature. And if we talk about binomial nomenclatures, then we will just move towards the last part, that is about species and genus. Okay, so Homo is genus, okay, and species is what? Sapien. Now you can see here, this is the whole taxonomical hierarchy of a particular human being. Okay, we are taking the example of a human being. So kingdom of human will be Animalia or animals. Okay, phylum will be chordates. You do not have to learn too much about the taxonomical hierarchy. Only 2 to 3 examples are important. Like example of human is important. Okay, like example of some plants I will tell you in the upcoming lectures. It will be important. So, phylum will be chordates, class will be mammals, order will be primates, family is hominids, genus is Homo, and last one is species. So, for human, if you were asked that what is the scientific name of human, then you will write as what? Homo. And remember to put the small letter here, so sapien. Okay, students, so this is the scientific name of humans. Okay, so in this chart also it is already written, it is a method of giving each species a name consisting of two words. Okay, the first name will be the what? Generic name, which is the name of genus, and the second it will be the name of species. Okay, so it is known as what? Specific name or scientific name. Genus name is written by capital letter and species is written by small letter, as you know. Both names should be underlined and should be written in the italic form. Okay, students, so if we are printing it, then we write it in italic form, and if we are writing it by hand, then we put the separate underlined way of genus and species. Now we are going to learn about the classification of the organisms, students. So actually the classification of the organisms were in early time not too broader way. So in broader way, if we want to discuss, then we will follow the 5 kingdom classification system. But if we talk about past time, then the scientists were not knowing about the different kind of organisms and even not totally about the taxonomy. So they just classified according to their researches. So we are going to understand this thing. First is 2 kingdom classification. Okay, so it was given by Carolus Linnaeus in 1758. Organisms were divided into plants kingdom and animal kingdom. Fungi, bacteria, euglena could not find an appropriate position. Okay, so actually 2 kingdom system classification, only 2 kingdoms were known. First kingdom was known as what? Plant, and second kingdom was known as what? Animal. Okay, so it was categorized only in plant and animal. Now where will be the microorganisms going? Okay, so it was a question mark over Carolus Linnaeus. So 2 kingdom system was discarded at that time. Now next 3 kingdom system arrived. Okay, it was given by Ernest Haeckel in 1894. In this kingdom, Protista was also included along with plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Okay, so actually along with animal and plant kingdom, Protista was included. Now you can see here, this is the 2 kingdom system classification which was given by Carolus Linnaeus in 1758, in which he classified only 2 categories. First is Plantae and Animalia. Now the question mark that came from the microorganisms, that where they will be moving. Okay, so it was totally wrong. Now next 3 kingdom system classification which was given by Ernest Haeckel in 1866. Now he actually divided the unicellular organisms differently and multicellular organisms differently. So multicellular organisms were counted as a plant and animal, and unicellular was counted in all Protista class. Okay, so unicellular like prokaryotes if we talk about. So all the unicellular organisms like amoeba, okay, paramecium, all these organisms were counted in Protista. And next plant and animal were counted as multicellular. Okay, so this was not totally right but somewhat good for the further studies. Okay, now next came about 4 kingdom system classification, in which the system was divided into 4-1. Okay, so it was given by Copeland. Okay, kingdom Monera was also included in this system of classification. Okay, so in this classification with Protista, kingdom Monera was also included. Now next came 5 kingdom system classification, which is nowadays followed and for writing any kind of name of scientific. So it was given by Robert Whittaker in 1959. According to him, organisms were divided into 5 kingdoms. Okay, so actually according to him, all the organisms are divided into 5 kingdoms. Okay, so he divided the organisms and he told all the names. So we are going to discuss also. So what were the basis of 5 kingdom classification? Let us take a look. So first point is complexity of the structure. Okay, all the organisms were not simpler ones, they were somewhat complex ones. So complex were put in separate category and the simpler one were put in separate category. Now next, mode of nutrition. Okay, the mode of nutrition may be saprotropic, they may be holozoic, okay, they may be saprophytic. Different kind of nutrition modes are present in a particular organism. They may be autotropic as well. Now level of organization. What kind of level of organization they have means which kind of tissue structure is present inside the body of a particular organism. So on the basis of this, he classified in the 5 kingdom system, students. So Firstly, we are going to see about the four kingdom classification which was given by Copeland in 1956. Okay, so first class he included was Monera, which included only prokaryotic organisms. Okay, so only prokaryotic organisms were included. Next, if we talk about Protista, so included primitive eukaryotic plants only. Now next, what we learn about prokaryote and eukaryote, we have learned about in the cell chapter very well, that if we talk about prokaryote, they were not having well developed nucleus, not having well developed all the cell organelles. But if we talk about eukaryotes, then plants and animals are counted in eukaryotes. Okay, now next class which he categorized was Metaphyta, in which advanced eukaryotic animals were counted, and Metazoa, in which advanced eukaryotics were counted. So this is how he has run the four kingdom system classification. Now, for knowing more and more about each and every species, the five kingdom system classification was followed. Okay, so in five kingdom system, students, Monera, Protista, Plantae, Animalia, and even fungi was also included, and this was the right way of classification. How it is right way, we are going to learn about this thing in the next lecture. But remember this thing, that five kingdom system classification is the particular method of classification of any kind of species. Okay, now we are going to learn about what is kingdom Monera, students. What does it include, which kind of organisms it includes. So unicellular, prokaryotic, microscopic, most ancient, can live in deep oceans, hot spring deserts, high salt concentrations, etc. They include bacteria, filamentous, and photosynthetic blue-green algae, cyanobacteria. So all the lower organisms, unicellular organisms, all the prokaryotic organisms were included in kingdom Monera. Okay. Now next, if we talk about kingdom Protista, then unicellular, colonial, and eukaryotic. What will be the difference between Monera and Protista, students? In Monera, the prokaryotic organisms were included. But if we talk about Protista, the eukaryotic organisms were included. Remember this thing. They include photosynthetic algae, decomposers like slime molds, and protozoa, that is predators, etc. Okay, so all these organisms were included in kingdom Protista. Now next kingdom, kingdom fungi. Unicellular or multicellular eukaryotic organisms, they are heterotrophic, parasitic, or saprophytic. Okay, so if we talk about unicellular or multicellular eukaryotic organisms, they were all included in the kingdom fungi. Okay, now if we talk about kingdom Plantae, then they are multicellular, eukaryotic, autotrophic, photosynthetic. Some are heterotrophic and parasitic even. Okay, so if we talk about Venus flytrap, Venus flytrap is a plant which is what? Heterotrophic and parasitic even. Okay, because it eats what? Insects. Okay, so kingdom Plantae is just the description in which all the multicellular organisms of eukaryotes, like well developed plants, okay, like including shrubs, herbs, angiosperms, gymnosperms, flowering plants, non-flowering plants, all were included in kingdom Plantae. Now next, they include photosynthetic algae, green plants as well. Okay, now next and last kingdom Animalia. So multicellular, eukaryotic, and heterotrophic. Okay, Carl was, that is in 1977, modified the five kingdom classification by dividing Monera into Archaebacteria or Archaea and Eubacteria or bacteria. This is known as six kingdom classification. Actually, it was just a type of subdivision which was done. Okay, so it was just the subdivision of the Monera into Archaebacteria or Archaea for classifying it. Actually, it was not showing too much some characteristics similar to Monera, so different class was organized, but only five kingdom system was usually used for classifying any organism. So you have to remember this thing, students. First is Monera, then Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Okay, so now you can see here the Robert H. Whittaker in 1969 classified organisms like this. So let us see the divisions through this flow chart. So organisms were categorized as prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So prokaryotic organisms were counted in Monera. Okay, now if we talk about eukaryotic, then there are two type of organisms, unicellular and multicellular. So unicellular will be in Protista, and if we talk about multicellular, then it will be counted when it will be divided with cell wall and without cell wall. So actually plants have cell wall and animals do not have cell wall. So they only have cell membrane. So animalia will be in without cell wall, and with cell wall there will be of two types. First is phototropic and second one is heterotropic. So phototropic is plantae and second one is heterotropic, that is fungi. Okay students, so this was the classification which was done by Whittaker. Okay students, so students, we have ended up the first lecture of today, that is all about diversity in living organisms, and I hope you that you have understood each and everything very clearly. Okay, so please do this assignment. This is a very small assignment that I am giving to you today. Exercise number 1, which includes questions related to this topic. Okay, only about diversity and its classification from A1 to A7. Okay students, so you have learned about what is diversity. Nextly, we learn about the taxonomical hierarchy, and lastly we learn about the classification. Okay, so give me the permission to leave students. Thank you.